Hello, Jane. You're known for playing Tessa Altman in Suburgatory, which is a sitcom. It's, and being a comedic actress, a horror film isn't the most obvious choice. How did that come about?
I was really interested in doing something the total opposite of what I do on Suburgatory, only because not that I get bored of it. I love that show and it's so much fun, but you do just itch to try something new, or at least I do. Mm-hmm. And this seemed like a great opportunity. There couldn't be two different projects.
And did you get an offer? You went in for an audition?
I went in for an audition, yeah.
So now you're very young. You weren't even around when obviously the original was made. Are you a fan of horror films? Had you watched the original before?
I'm not a big fan of horror movies. I'm easily afraid. But I watched the original once I had gotten the part, and I found it terrifying.
Now, what about the pre-production? There's a lot of prosthetics, so costs had to be made.
Yeah.
Was that difficult? And how many hours in the makeup chair every day?
I thought making the molds were exciting. Getting your body cast was cool to see a version of your arm right there. But what was the second? Oh, makeup. It was 5 hours of makeup whenever I was a demon.
Now, your character goes through this transition, first, obviously, when you're an addict and dealing with the withdrawal, and then actually when you're possessed and you're this, you're a demon. Which aspect was harder to play?
That's funny. They all had their own challenges. I actually had a lot of fun being a demon. The only hard part was being, covered in sticky blood and pus and being barefoot and wet and freezing cold. But when the cameras were rolling, that was really fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's actually part of my second question. Yeah, your character gets pushed beyond physical limits as an actor. I mean, half the time I was watching it, I'm like, oh my God, she's freezing cold, she's muddy, she's wet, she's covered in blood.
Yeah.
I mean, and you get buried.
There's so many tubes, so I can vomit everywhere. Yeah.
Which one was the hardest?
Being buried alive was the hardest mentally, because you really have to calm yourself down, because your body goes into survival mode and you really think you're going to suffocate when there's a plastic bag tied around your head and you're going to get covered by dirt. But it's a badge of honor that I have.
At the South by Southwest Film Festival, Fede announced that he's already writing the second. You're obviously in it. And any hints for Evil Dead fans?
I actually have no idea. I found that out at South by Southwest as well. But Fede told me that he's interested in what I want to do, and so I hope that we can sit down together soon and I can have somewhat of an input.
Excellent. And what's next for Jane Levy?
Right now I'm signed on to make a movie this summer called In a Dark Place, which is technically a horror film, but I think it's more a thriller psychological genre.
You don't understand.
Hello, Fede. You became famous for a 4-minute short called Panic Attack. I watched the short and I loved it. I mean, and 7 million hits. Did you ever expect it?
No, I never expected it. I never thought nobody was going to watch. I finished it. I did it. I loved making that short. It was a lot of work put into that, and but just short made between friends, just because we like those movies and we enjoy making our own little alien invasion, big disaster movie back in Uruguay, because nobody make those films in Uruguay. So it was a nice thing to do, and then suddenly that happened. We never expected it. No.
Yeah, it's a very intriguing story. So the success of Panic Attack got Hollywood calling. I mean, did Sam Raimi call you directly? How did that happen? Were you jumping up and down with excitement?
Yeah, no, it was more than that. I think I finished, I uploaded the film, and in one night it became a viral hit. So the next morning I had 150 emails from people from Hollywood. So I ended up coming here the next week and met a lot of people, but I was a big Sam Raimi fan since I was a kid, so when I met him, it was there was no doubt that he was the guy that I want to work with.
Now, you wrote you wrote it with your longtime writing partner. His name is Rodo, I guess. But I also saw Diablo Cody's name in the writing.
She did. At some point when I finished the draft, I wanted her to do a pass on dialogues. I wanted an American writer to do a pass on dialogues, and she's a big Evil Dead fan, so she helped us a little bit with the dialogues. But then we ended up not using much of it, so that's why she doesn't have a credit in the movie. But she did a great job. We didn't use much of it. That's the problem.
So tell me about your casting process. Your lead actress, Jane Levy, is known for sitcom. I mean, a comedic actress isn't the first most obvious choice. Had any interesting auditions?
I didn't. It was all based on the audition. I really didn't know her work on TV at all. I was really looking for for new people. I didn't want to go with big stars. I was looking for the fresh faces out there. We really auditioned so much people everywhere, like in Los Angeles, New York, Australia, London, and New Zealand. So I wanted to make sure that whoever will get the part was the best person for it, right?
Now, the original has that distinctive kind of grindhouse look of those, all those films made in the 70s and 80s, and yours has a much more cinematic feel to it, but it still has a little taste of that, that grindhouse experience, the look of it. How did you accomplish that?
Well, I don't know. I think, of course, you have the influence of the original films all the time, right? It's the film is inspired by the original saga. I think it's a completely new thing because the characters are new, the story is new, the reason why they go to the cabin, everything is different. But it's inspired by the original on so many levels that's why I think it reaches those crazy, outrageous moments, right? And Sam Raimi is the producer, so he was always encouraging us to go as crazy as we could, right?
Now, there's a lot of blood in this.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, how many gallons of blood did you use?
we had a truck one day just for one scene. There was 5,000 gallons that we used for the final scene of the movie. So it's even more than that what we use.
Now, I heard at the South by Southwest Film Festival you announced that you're already writing the second. Any hints for Evil Dead fans?
Yeah, it's the exciting part is it's going to be a completely new Evil Dead. In the last 20 years at least, right now it's going to be a completely new story. We're not going to remake Evil Dead 2. We're just going to make it a completely new Evil Dead, and that's super exciting. And it has to be something you don't expect. I think this film accomplished that, to be something that people weren't expecting. So we have to give that again, and it has to go to new places and new ground.